So, who broke it? I'm not mad. I just want to know.
I did. I broke it.
No, you didn't. Tom?
Don't look at me. Look at Ben.
What? I didn't break it.
Huh, that's weird. How'd you even know it was broken?
Because it's sitting right in front of us and it's broken.
Suspicious.
No, it's not.
If it matters. Probably not, but April was the last one to use it.
Liar, I don't even drink that crap.
Oh, really? Then what were you doing by the coffee cart earlier?
I used the wooden stirrer to push back my cuticles. Everyone knows that,
Okay,
Jerry.
Okay, let's not fight. I broke it. Let me pay for it, Ron.
No. Who broke it?
Ron, Don has been awfully quiet.
Really?
Yeah, really.
He's gonna say Don.
I broke it. It burned my hand, so I punched it. I predict 10 minutes from now, they'll be at each other's throats with war paint on their faces and a pig head on a stick. Good. It was getting a little chummy around here.
Welcome back. We now have all the main characters and even all the villains. Finally. So let's take a break and talk about the characters for a little bit. The main trio of Faye, Saiten, and Ellie established early in the game is well characterized and have the most notable presence in the story. Saiten is more of a supporting character than a main protagonist, but despite that he is a vital expositor and serves the role as wise mentor. Ellie, the other equally important linchpin in all of this, exhibits a lot of growth and maturity throughout the story along with Faye, and their individual arcs intertwine with their budding romance. They are the lenses by which we see the world. Faye's general ignorance due to amnesia, and Ellie due to her sheltered and brainwashed upbringing being broken by her interactions with the surface dwellers. It's been often said that the greatest combat to ignorance is travel, and both Faye and Ellie exemplify this as their journey around the world expands and informs their worldview. Ellie overcomes her prejudices, and Faye finds out who he really is. Faye's additional focus is largely centered around his very public and surprisingly well-characterized struggles with mental illness. Depression, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and dissociative identity disorder are all at the heart of his personal journey to discover his identity. Already we get the sense that Faye has lived more than one life in this world, and that he may not be the only one to have done so. Bart is the next best characterized supporting member of the cast. He has an expansive arc, a well-defined character, with interesting actions informed by well thought out and told motivations. He has interesting interpersonal relationships, all unique to his story, in the form of Margie, Sigurd, Mason. This means that even after his particular story closes, he still feels like a natural inclusion to the party because we just know Bart would want to help. Being really well characterized means that we can anticipate his actions and understand his motivations. If the rest of the cast had even had half of Bart's attention paid to them, they would be alright, but sadly, that's not the case. Rico's arc is never expanded or resolved outside his relationship with Hammer. Even his status as a demi-human, which would be the prime source of character growth, is never really expressed or expanded on in meaningful ways beyond its introduction. Billy fares only slightly better. Most of the weight of his story comes from his interpersonal relationships, like Bart, but his character development is rushed through, and while the circumstances of his story are shocking and tragic, players scarcely have time to process it before we run into Emeralda, endure more id shenanigans, and then Maria comes along. Maria falls into the same issues, but with even less time devoted to her development, and Chu is barely a character as much as he is an afterthought. It's like the RPGs of the 90s had to meet some sort of character quota or something. I feel many of these characters would have been better served as temporary party members or NPCs. Or even better, provide them with more complete arcs like Bart's. Ideally, there would be a combination of both at play. As it stands, most of the characters are little more than aesthetic alternatives to the main cast, which is a shame as there's a lot of potential never realized in each of their stories. Then there's Big Joe. Big Joe is a recurring NPC who's a weird enigma in the story. sort of like Tom Bombadil from Lord of the Rings. He has this huge lore and backstory and is a character that feels like he might have been meant to be a goofy addition to the party at some point. I'm not gonna lie, I might would have preferred Joe to have been in the party compared to some of the other permanent characters we got. I also feel like Joe would have been one of those characters who would have been present in every game of the series, somehow bungling through time, witlessly surviving catastrophe after catastrophe. That's seriously his background. If you ever get a chance to read Perfect Works, you'll see what I mean. The NPCs are great in this game and provide real color and life to the world. One of the real highlights of this game is just going around and talking to all the people in it. With the shield down, we can see Solaris, and so it's finally time to take the fight directly to the enemy. Enemies? Bart suggests we split up to avoid detection, and Faye is partnered up with Seitan and Ellie. Despite being with two former citizens of Solaris, he ends up getting separated from them and lost. Come on guys, you had one job. I guess it's not like Faye can get into much trouble when he is alone. I like how this opening area is upside down because of the flipped gravity. It's neat, but I'm glad they write everything back around once inside. Playing this whole section upside down would have been a nightmare. Faye gets a first-hand glimpse of the oppression in the lowest class of Solarian society. They live in hives as slaves, and if anyone expresses discontent, they are disposed of quickly. However, if you show progress with the societal programming, you can be promoted to second-class citizen. But one person who speaks out or acts out can cause the whole block to be demoted. Faye runs into Ellie pretty quickly, but she is not much help because, being a first-class citizen, she has rarely been down this far. You are sort of forced to explore the area, and this is another place where Xenogears shows off its impressive environmental storytelling. Almost every village you visit has these really fleshed out NPCs, as I've already mentioned, who are there to add context to the world. The sheer volume of writing and thought this took is one of Xenogears' biggest achievements, and translating it all to English must have been an incredible challenge. The translation is pretty good, though sometimes a little stilted, but much better than the average of the time, and considering again the effort required, it's really impressive. As you explore, you will eventually run into a guy who looks just like Timothy. His name is Samson, and I'm sure nothing bad will ever happen to our new friend who looks just like our old dead friend. It's been so long since that intro. You remember everybody, right? Dan, Timothy, Alice. Do you still have the wedding dress Alice made? You can get it for not beating up Dan in the tournament. I've been carrying it around for over 30 hours. Poor Faye. After a terrible maze that the visibility really sucks in, we get to the prison gates, so to speak. Not Timothy confidently strolls into the pad thinking he's cheated the system, despite Ellie trying to warn him. It is especially tragic as Ellie gets Faye through by just walking through standing really close to him. Poor not Timothy. Second class has it better than third for sure, but there are still sentries everywhere and the whole place gives off a real dystopian future vibe. It kind of reminds me of Logan's Run. That is not even the first or even the last 70s sci-fi reference this game is going to make. Faye and Ellie find out everybody but them and Seitan has been captured and are to be executed. Well, some of them. Others are going to become hosts for the new bodies of the TV guys. Apparently, the save points we have been using this whole game are from Solaris, and they are part of a plan to gauge the compatibility of people with the Gazel Ministry to find close matches to gain new bodies. I hear it's a common problem. Solaris has been manipulating the genes of everyone, from their own citizens to the lambs, trying to produce suitable new vessels for their ministry that can also use the anima relics. Faye sees Krelian for the first time and has another flashback, revealing that it's not his first time. It's becoming apparent that these flashbacks are from the perspective of other people, potentially Faye from past lives, that he seems to have lived. So far, there have been at least two versions of Faye. One of them is a man named Lacan who lived with Sophia, the mother of Nissan, who seems to be a past version of Ellie. Lacan also knew a man named Krelian, but strangely, this man looks similar but not exactly the same, like Faye and Ellie do in their past lives. An interesting detail. The second was a man named Kim, who is also connected to another version of Ellie and also apparently is the creator of Emeralda. Faye has no context for these memories and flashbacks, but they appear at key times in the story to layer some more connections and intrigue to the already very complicated plot. Ellie decides the best way to find out where our friends are being held is to go home and use her father's computer. Her father is a high-ranking member of Solarian society, so he should know something. He's not home when we arrive, but we meet Ellie's mother, and Ellie decides that both her and Faye have time to get a shower. While waiting for each other, they talk about family, and Faye mentions that Ellie doesn't look much like her mother. Ellie hints that she might have been an illegitimate child her father had with a third-class lamb who lived with them as her nanny. Also, Faye is totally a gentleman, but Ellie is all about watching Faye get a shower. We get the info we need, but Dad walks in and catches us. Faye offers to leave in exchange for Ellie staying if Dad will not call the police. Once again on our own, Faye can't understand what anyone is saying because he can't speak Solarian. On our way to rescue the others, we finally catch up with Saitan, who suspiciously seems to have the same level of access as Ellie, if not more, despite being gone from Solaris for what we can assume is at least a decade. We head back down to the garbage chute, but the way is blocked. Ellie catches up with us around here. Her mother, despite everything, encourages Ellie to go and help her friends, and even her father comes around and helps her escape from when Krellion's goons show up. Saitan continues to be cryptic and suspicious, only growing more so as we dive deeper into this place. We find some food made from the Soylent system, and Ellie and Faye scarf it down, being very hungry. For some reason, Saitan does not want any food. A few rooms later, we find out why. So, Krellion and the Solarian elite have been turning lambs into wells. Then they turn those wells into all sorts of things. Test subjects, horrible and mindless monsters that they release to kill and terrorize the lambs, but worst of all, they are turning them into food in the Soylent system. They put drugs in the food that assist in the brainwashing and weakening of the lambs, and I think I'm going to be sick. Dude, why did you let me eat that? It feels like Saitan is trying to make some sort of point with all this, but the meaning is lost with the sheer horror of it all. Saitan tells Ellie that her father used to run this house of horrors, has tried to rescue as many lambs as he could. One of them was probably her mother. He was then moved to another department because he just cared too much, apparently. Ellie starts to finally piece together that Saitan is some sort of spy, but it's too late and the two of them are captured and separated. Saitan tells Faye that he was sent specifically to spy on him by Solaris to determine if he was a threat. The TV guy's ultimate goal is to revive and join God, which they cannot do if they are not of flesh and blood, and Faye's existence is somehow a danger to them. They have repeatedly tried to kill Faye, but to no avail, so they lured him here. Krellion wants Ellie because she is also the key to reviving God in some way that has not yet been revealed, and he shows his extensive research in genetic manipulation and his implementation of Emeralda's nanomachine technology to speed up the process he's been moving towards for a very long time. Fortunately for us, Saitan is actually a double crosser. He works directly for Cain, as I already mentioned, who is actively trying to disrupt the Ministry's goals. It's a little confusing, the double heel turn, but that is intentional. Saitan frees all our companions and Faye and sends us to rescue Ellie while he goes and handles a thing. That thing being blowing up a power generator. There's a little reunion minus Sigurd, but Ramses is clearly beyond reason at this point. And here we all are back together. Even Ellie's parents are here. Wait, that can't be right. Normally, things go from bad to worse, and then Faye takes a nap. Oh, there it is. Hammer, being pressured by Krellion, tries to re-kidnap Ellie. He shoots Ellie's mother, and then Ellie's father is killed by Graft and Myung, who is disguised as this executioner character. Then Myung is about to murder everybody, and the penny drops. If you guessed that Faye and Id were the same person, then congratulations. Turns out Faye was the imposter the whole time. Id goes on to completely annihilate Solaris. Ellie managed to reach Faye underneath the Id persona, and for the first time we finally get some real answers. Faye does not have amnesia. The Faye we know and love is one of 3 personalities. The Faye persona we interact with for most of the game is only 3 years old. This is why he has no memory earlier than Layhan. He did not exist before then. The other more prominent personality is Id. Id was born of the original Faye when he was a child. As a child, Faye was exposed to extremely traumatic experiences, and with nowhere to escape, he fled into his own subconscious. This original Faye created Id to experience all the pain and trauma for him, so he wouldn't have to. This second personality, fed with only malice, torture, and pain, desires only one thing: carnage and destruction. Being fed on a steady diet of misery his entire existence, all he wants is to bring more misery to the people around him. The Faye we know was brought into existence 3 years ago by the child persona to contain Id and further shield him from trauma that now Id creates. Id is almost always trying to be free, but can only break out when Faye is either incredibly angry or overwhelmed. Now that I say it out loud, it's kind of like the Hulk.
Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
Faye is sentenced to carbon freezing on Shavat since he is considered unstable, but before his sentence can be carried out, Ellie and the others bust him out and they say their goodbyes. Ellie tries to escape with Faye to flee all of their problems together. With the world of Xenogears, you can't have good things. And Ramses shows up to take Ellie back to Krelian. He hates Faye so much, though, that he just decides to kill both of them, and they crash in a forest not like the one they met in, and that's the end of Disc 1. So yeah, you can imagine how much I was disappointed when Disc 2 did not work. I would be like if I ended this retrospective here and never made a part. Ha! Gotcha. Welcome to the story chair. This is how most of the game is wrapped up. Long exposits in the chair with representations of scenes broken up by sections of dungeons and other more traditional story sequences until the end of the game. It is a decision born both from necessity and inspired by a certain other franchise that ran into similar problems. Now, I did say it was an inspired choice due to the circumstances, but let me be clear, this is not an optimal way to wrap up this story. It's unique, but it's not ideal. The game changes from being an RPG to being a more interactive novel with long sections of story. When I was doing the Let's Play of this game, I had whole episodes where I did not actually do anything but cycle through text. Faye has dreams of his past lives, splicing together that in all of them he was devoted to one woman. Only one woman. One woman. Every time she was lost to him, and this time he wants to make sure he protects her. Ellie also dreams having similar revelations, but both of them awaken more mature and more complete. Ellie now knows that she cannot be with Faye until the world is mended. In a world filled with these prejudices and pain, they cannot truly be happy. So she resolves to carry on the legacy of Sophia to meet this goal. The third wise man, Tara, is who we have to thank for rescuing us. Turns out he was the one who taught Krelian, which panned out for everybody. Tara has a plan to use Krellion's nanoassemblers to remove all the Lamb's limiters and programming. He also gives Faye a device that administers doses of serotonin to suppress id. This should make it safer for Faye to go around and continue to stop Graf, Myong, and Krellion. But before they can leave to implement Tara's plan, Solaris attacks Shavat, and they ask for help. Yeah, just after you tried to freeze us in carbonite. Faye and Ellie split up. Faye's going to defend Solaris, and Ellie is headed to spread the nanites. Or at least that's what's intended to be expressed. It all happens off screen. All we get to do is fight Ramses and our new upgraded Weltall. Then we get another long explanation that Solaris has this super weapon, but Bart figures out that he also can combine the Yggdrasil with the city center of Kislev to make their own super weapon. The fight looks cool, but it's not hard, and as soon as it's over, more story in the chair space. After the victory, lots of humans suddenly turn into Wells. Ellie thinks it's her fault for releasing the nanoassemblers, but it's actually Krellion all along. These Wells are going to be converted into the flesh of Deus, and the race to prevent his revival is on. This next cutscene is somehow one of the most disturbing sequences, and that is in a game that includes the Soylent system. No one knows who will suddenly be changed into the Wells, and they're driven for a hunger for flesh and a nearly unimaginable prejudice for those who do not undergo the mutation that they have, which creates tension between the unchanged and the changed that further fractures the already collapsing society. The have-nots envy and demand of the haves, and the haves refuse to share for fear of losing everything. It's the end of the world, and all the people are literally eating each other. Ellie stands as a bridge between the two, offering empathy for both sides. She goes as far as to offer her own flesh and blood to soothe the suffering of others. She brings understanding and protection to both sides and inspires the haves to help and the have-nots to fight their hunger and urges. Ellie, like Sophia before her, is somehow able to hold the people together in the midst of unimaginable hardships for everyone. Ellie takes all the remaining survivors to Nissan and works tirelessly with the church to meet the needs of everyone. I like how this game has a dichotomy of showing responsible versus irresponsible faith. The ethos used the desperation of the downtrodden to meet their own desires. Nissan takes in the same downtrodden and actually focuses on meeting their needs. Meanwhile, the TV guys decide they have enough organic material to start resurrecting Deus, but are stopped by Cain. What follows is a series of dungeons where the team tries to locate the remaining missing animal relics before the TV guys and Krellion can find them. In one of these dungeons, we run into a mutated hammer and sadly have to put him out of his misery, which really does a number on the morale, especially for Ellie. Ramses gets some fleshing out here, and we get some explanation behind his motivations. He was cloned by Krellion of Cain for the goal of awakening Deus, but when Faye was born and discovered, he was no longer needed, and so he was thrown away. He crawled his way back to the top and made a place for himself only to have Faye destroy life he rebuilt over and over. But it turns out Krellion does have one use for Ramses now. Ramses, being a clone of Cain, as such can actually kill him, which he does, freeing the TV guys to start the revival of Deus and the apocalypse. Even more people are turned into Wells, and Mahanan, the central part of the Eldritch, the spaceship from the intro, rises from the depths. So yeah, it's finally revealed that the ship broke up in orbit, and all this ancient tech that looks similar on the planet, like Babel Tower and more, is just all part of the ship that crashed here. Also, the name Eldritch is a bit on the nose for the ship, considering the horrors it contains. So now it has come down to it. With few other options, the final confrontation looming, the team steels themselves to take down Deus. But Faye feels that Ellie should stay behind since she is now more than just a member of the group, but a central figure of hope and salvation in the world that desperately needs both. Ellie and Faye have a fight, they make up, Ellie agrees to stay behind. And you would think Xenogears would be sort of wrapping everything up, even though we still have a few loose ends considering things could not possibly get worse. But then you have forgotten the pattern. Faye and the group minus Ellie finds Raziel's Tree of Wisdom, basically a big library computer on the Eldritch. Digging into the files, we find out that the Eldritch was carrying an interplanetary invasion weapon called Yaba. This system was designed to wipe out all life on a planet and reseed it with human life. The core of this system was a weapon, an artificial being called Deus. This whole system requires massive, unimaginable amounts of power, which was provided by a device known as the Zohar. Graf and Krelian show up before the party can find out more, and they're all beaten and captured. Ellie is delivered terms for an exchange, her friends' lives, if she surrenders herself. What follows is an iconic and brutal scene where Faye and the others hang on crosses in their gears, while Ellie tries to rescue them but is unable to save them. Krelly leaves with Ellie, and Graf taunts Faye's weakness and his inability to protect her. Krelian kills the TV guys since he no longer needs them, which is also true of this whole entire story if we're honest. He then starts his final push to resurrect Deus. The party goes to save Ellie and stop Krelian. Ellie is on a cross now, offered up to Deus, but Ramses comes in and kills Myong and Krelian. We try to help Ellie, but her hair turns purple and she shoots Faye with Billy's gun. Billy, you gotta do better about holding on to those things. Krelian pops up again because he is basically made of nanomachines at this point, and he and Myong and Ellie's body explained that after the crash of the Eldritch, Deus initiated a plan to resurrect itself by producing a single mother, Myong, along with the TV guys and Kane. They would build a population of humans large enough that Deus could farm enough genetic material from them to rebuild itself. Every time Myong's body dies, her mind is transmigrated to another woman, who she inhabits with all of her memories and purpose intact. Think Agent Smith from The Matrix. The last piece of the puzzle for Deus' resurrection was Myong to possess Ellie's body, and this was just all part of the plan. We have known all along something was special about Ellie and Faye. Krelian and Myong/Ellie enter Deus, and the party is forced to retreat in defeat. Well, we've hit rock bottom, it seems, but the good news is that there's finally nowhere to go but up. Next time, Faye is going to rally the troops and himself to try to finally defeat Deus and Krelian once and for all, and face off against Graft for the last time. We'll see all that take place next time on the Xenogears Retrospective. We'll also start diving into some of the influences and final critiques for this review/retrospective. I hope that you have enjoyed this retrospective so far, but for now, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.